Hi everybody and welcome to your latest GTA Fancast with me, Gully. Slightly disappointing result to review and performance to review today with a 1-1 defeat against Luton on Saturday. I've watched some of the game back, obviously very extenuating circumstances to anything kind of tactical from the 90 minutes itself, but I actually wanted to go back to pre-match and considering some of the factors that the team would have set themselves up against, basically, and kind of in defence of Gary O'Neill a little bit as well. Think about some of the prep that would have happened before the game. Now, first thing to consider with any team, obviously, is how they're set up in previous games, what you can get from footage, and all that kind of stuff. And when you think about Luton, with regards to the way they've attacked this Premier League season so far, they've gone with a front two in every single game up to this point. Now, that is Brighton away, Chelsea away, West Ham at home, and also Fulham away as well. You can see lining up in 5-3-2, 3-5-2, whichever way you want to kind of spin it, essentially. And they actually made a change compared to those systems versus us. Now, you can see here, this is the average positions of each of their players. When you think about the way that team was set up, the two forwards that were kind of supporting Carlton Morris ostensibly weren't really strikers. They were Jacob Brown and Chidesi Ogbene. Ogbene very much kind of a winger type, and they played him in a very kind of specific role, I think, and targeted us down our left, our right, and their left side, basically. Little example of what I mean here. So you can see Nelson Semedo, obviously, as the right fullback, has to go out and defend at the widest point when Luton have possession, and he's been dragged out to Alfie Doughty, who was playing as a left wing back for Luton. Now, what that means is obviously is that Craig Dawson, has to cover a larger space in that right channel. Now, Ogbeni, I've highlighted there, is going to make a run forward. Doughty very quickly kind of moves the ball on into the space that Semedo's left behind him, and that leads to this situation here where Craig Dawson is in the channel, basically playing as a fullback against a quick winger. That is not a situation anybody wants to see him in, and a number of times within the first kind of 15 minutes, Luton exploited that kind of situation, put a number of crosses into the box, and caused us quite a bit of trouble. Now, having watched the game back, in hindsight, you spotted this quite early, and O'Neill did as well. It was actually kind of in the 13th minute, I think, when I think back, that Jean Ricner Bellegarde wins a free kick. Jose Sarr goes down with an injury, in inverted commas, and the team kind of gets a little bit of respite, and they set up slightly differently and change the shape. Now, from that moment onwards, we are playing with what you would say is a back five. I've highlighted this here. Initially, it is Pedro Neto who goes out and kind of sits in that shape, as he was starting the game as the right winger. Ultimately, that then changes again with Huang Ki-Chan going out on the right side and Neto picking up that left-hand side position, which I think we all know he plays kind of better down that channel anyway. And we start to get a little bit more joy as a result. Now, up until this point, obviously, we've conceded a few crosses into the box. We've been under pressure on the back foot. We've had a shot hit the post against us, but not really conceded a hell of a lot of chances. Some good box defending, some good kind of resolute showings from the defenders especially. But the problem we had with kind of mixed in with all of that was that we were losing duels. We weren't holding the ball up. The 50-50s just weren't dropping for us. All those things, which whilst you can maybe point little things out tactically, especially like you say, maybe we should have gone in with a back five to begin with. Those things are very much individual player issues. And there's an appetite, I think, missing from the players without, whilst you can prepare anybody for what's about to happen, until you're in the midst of that situation, you're not necessarily going to be able to react in the right way. And I think a lot of the players were trying to play a certain type of game, which Luton were never going to allow us to. They were always going to have a spell within the game. They're always going to start like a house on fire. It's their second home game, a game that they would have identified as something they could pick up points from. And lo and behold, they did. Now, when you mix that with some of the issues we had with our shape and things like that, you can understand why we were on the back foot. So Gary O'Neill, fair play to him, he identified it, he switched it up, and we ended up actually getting quite a foothold in the game. Like I say, we've changed the shape. And if you look at kind of our touch map from 0 to 14 minutes versus 15 to 39 minutes, and you'll understand why I've left it at 39 minutes there, you can see straight away much more possession in high areas of the pitch, and just essentially gaining a little bit of control. We weren't obviously necessarily penetrative, but that kind of sedate possession, which we showed quite a bit of in the Palace game, I think, as well, where we've quietened the home crowd, we've taken the sting out of the game, we've allowed our technical players to get more touches of the ball and start to build a little bit more confidence. And then, obviously, in the 39th minute, we get the sending off of Bellegarde. That was a problem, obviously. Going down to 10 men at any point is a problem. But I think in terms of how the direction of travel that the game was going in, it really took the sting out of anything that we were looking to build. And Bellegarde in particular was starting to grow in influence. I think Matheus Cunha was still just having a bad game anyway, as was Hwang. But it really knocked the stuffing out of us in that sense. So going down to 10 men, obviously we have to reconfigure and really think about the way we approach the rest of the game. And to be honest, I don't think we did badly at all. Obviously we've set ourselves up in that kind of 5-2-2 with each of the forwards defensively dropping in, whichever one is kind of ball side, like you say. So you can see here Matheus Cunha is chasing back the left centre half who's carrying the ball forward, Amari Bell. And essentially, you can't really pick too many holes in the way that we set up. We defended really brilliantly. Obviously, those kind of half-time changes that we made, which brought on Totti and Matt Doherty as well, gave us a bit more stoutness. I think it helped with us dealing with the threat of Luton, and that's kind of evidenced here as well. They, over the course of the 90 minutes, put in 44 crosses into our box, and having that extra aerial strength with the likes of Doherty and Totti on the pitch. You can see there we really were able to stand up to the test. I think Doherty at left wing back was pointed because a lot of the joy that Luton had in the first half was down their left wing. So defending the back post was of the utmost importance. And whatever people have thought of Matt Doherty in his first spell at the club, the one thing he always did brilliantly was defend the back post. And while Ryan Aït-Nouri did well in that first half, I think it's still not necessarily a strength of his game. And it was a fairly sound decision to make to play him on that side. You can see their headed clearances, Matt Doherty top of the list. That's inclusive of Luton players as well. And you can see as well that Max Kilman was imperious aerially as well in terms of defensive aerial duels. He really kind of dominated that back line and, again, was a magnet for the ball. And I think that's an area of the game which I don't think is necessarily shown previously. But lower quality teams like Luton will spam crosses into the box. It's the way that they want to play. It's a method of building pressure without having to necessarily, play tiki-taka football through the middle of the pitch. And we stood up to it, which, given the way we've kind of capitulated in certain points in the season so far, despite having played much better in other games, I think it's commendable. I don't think you can fault the management and the players for the way they went about the game. We've ultimately lost the chance to get 3 points at least, based on a bad handball decision. And when you really kind of analyse how many chances we gave away, how much joy Luton actually had against us when it came to getting around the penalty area, there wasn't a fat lot to speak of. And whilst the nerves came because we were under pressure, and I think a lot of it was because people just think they can't get the idea that it's Luton Town out of their head. But when you think about the context of it, the fact they're at home, the fact they're always going to have a spell of pressure because everyone, that atmosphere is able to build in the ground, and they made it a second ball game is the what I describe it as. All the loose balls were there to be contested, and this is where these lower quality teams can kind of narrow the gap in quality. We started to get on top. Again, that red card really kind of was a sucker punch. And I think if we see the rest of the game out with 11 men, I think we win. Probably narrowly, but I think we win the game. So disappointing, and we're going to miss Bellegarde, I think, for the next couple of fixtures. But to come away with a point isn't necessarily the devastating result that people have made it out to be. And there's certainly no qualms from me with the way Gary O'Neill resurrected the game. I think maybe issues with the way we started it. Obviously, could have gone in with a back five, but again, things change from Luton's perspective. You prepare for the game. You only can only work with the information you have to hand, right? And ultimately, you could say that they coached to win, right? You know, we were 1-0 up. A dodgy penalty decision has caused us to lose that lead and ultimately lose 2 points. But look, it's frustrating. We want to be beating these teams because we feel we have more quality than them, but a lot of teams will drop points at Kenilworth Road. I'm pretty sure of that. So we'll move on to Ipswich, obviously in the cup, which will be a different game based on number of changes, etc., and then Man City. But once we get the other side of that Man City game, I think we'll start to come into our own. We've got more home fixtures coming, and we're into a run of games that I think we should be looking to build a bit more of a style, look to kind of take the initiative in some of those games as well, and hopefully pick up more points. So again, the message is hold your nerve, just relax a little bit. I think everybody, people have started panicking for no good reason really, and with the cards that have been dealt at the start of this season, there's just no sense to it whatsoever. The players aren't going to feed off those nerves positively, and we've seen what impacts an atmosphere can have at Luton. An atmosphere at Molineux that isn't fraught, that isn't anxious, is only going to create a negative situation. So hopefully we can move forward a little bit more positively and start to pick up some points and build up a little bit more momentum, probably post the Manchester City game.